Welcome to the symbolic lodge of conversation, where consciousness and curiosity interweave into discussion. This is All Square Podcast. I'm your host, R.L. Franks. Joining with me this evening is the one and only Michael Liu. Mike, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing fantastic. It's our second episode. We've definitely shown up today. New features, new lighting, new camera angles. I am excited. How about you?
It is an exciting time for being a new podcast. I mean, look at this. The atmosphere is right. The mood lighting is really on point. And I'm just blessed to be a host on this show and sitting right alongside you, smoking cigars and drinking good bourbon.
Oh, for sure.
You know, Mike, let's reflect in this podcast. This is our second podcast episode right now.
Yeah.
We just dropped our first podcast pilot episode. And tell me how you have felt the experience of this podcast has been.
Oh, man, this experience has been great. Let alone I get to spend some time with my brother here, Rob Franks. The community outpouring from family, friends, co-workers, Masons, non-Masons has just been spectacular. Everyone's showing up with the type of energy that we didn't expect. We came with it, but you know what? At the end of the day, they returned some of that energy, and I love that.
100%. I mean, literally, as of right now, not even really marketing our podcast to the viewership on all these social media platforms. We're already at 200 in over 5 days since the first podcast released. And it's a big thank you to all of you who are supporting.
Absolutely.
Both the Masons and the non-Masons who have been watching this podcast. There's a lot of benefits that's been going on. Let's take, for an example, over the weekend, I was talking to Brother John Tate, a dear friend of mine. I can't wait for you to meet him.
That sounds cool.
He watched our podcast, and he actually wanted to send it to a fellow coworker of his at their company. And he asked, what did you think of it? And now that guy is looking into Masonry. That wasn't even our intention, but it's happening. Tell me, how has the response been for people you've been just sharing this to friends?
Yeah,
family?
Absolutely. So I shared it with friends. The response really has been overwhelming. I had a cousin I shared it with. He's a manly man, that go-to guy, married, has kids. I shared it with him, wanting to kind of show him what we were doing here. Not to join into the Masons or whatnot, but I wanted him to get a little kick out of what we're doing. And he learned a lot from our first episode, and it really intrigued him. He reached out to me and said, I want to hear more about this. So it seems our message is getting out to other people, and at the end of the day, reaching out to non-Masons, even telling our stories to other Masons. I just think this is going to be a really good thing for other men out there who are looking to get something out of our podcast.
You're absolutely right. I mean, look, this platform that we are building right now has just been what a lot of people are looking for. That art of conversation with one another. Hey, I'm not alone. I'm looking for a brotherhood. This isn't a point to sell Masonry, but just to show the benefits of this brotherhood and how we're all here for one another. And we're seeing that with just showing this to friends and family and other brethren of the fraternity. Tell me, how excited are you to be getting other guest speakers in here and hearing the journeys from the newer Masons as well as the experienced Masons?
Oh, well, me being on the first pilot episode, I never expected to be the first guest, but it showed me that I was able to tell a story. I was able to come in and tell my journey of coming into the organization, becoming an entered apprentice, reaching the fellow craft degree, and just really telling on how it really has changed my life, how it really helped me like I said, free myself from the agoraphobia, and really relieve that anxiety I was feeling. And in doing that, what I come to after a couple days of people listening to the podcast and watching it, I watched it. God, I'd have to say a dozen times. I found it intriguing as well, but it opened my mind to say, I want to hear the stories of some of these Masons who have been in here for 10 years, like yourself. Some of them have been here 20, 30, 40, 50 years. What was it like for them when they came in? What is their story? What is their journey? Because I'm sure the viewers out there are definitely going to want to hear that.
That's the foundation of our podcast. All square. Learning, working on ourselves internally, and being better men out into the community. To be able to hear your story, to be able to hear the stories from past and the friends that you made along the way. I had a friend reach out from Southern Ohio. Shout out to Justin Elliott. He watched the show and he said, Rob, you did a great job at hosting, but your guest / partner in this, Mike Lou, really stole the show. I mean, think about it. You told your story about how you felt here,
Yeah,
and took us on that journey of self-improvement. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And he was just blown away from that. And that's what we want to hit. We just don't want to make this just another Masonic podcast. We want this to be for the non-Masons, who, these men out here who don't feel like they belong, who they see all the success of their friends on social media. I mean, that's the one thing that always gets me. I always see how people who I haven't talked to in years are doing, but when's the last time I reached out to them? When was the last time I did a wellness check on them and say, hey man, I'm still here for you? I feel like we become so isolated with technology where we need to use it to be building bridges rather than putting up walls.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so thankful that you even bring this up, because so many men out there are missing. They've been separated as men. It's so hard for us to reach out or confide in other people, trust. That's what Masonry is about. And at some point, you have to break free from these shackles or these chains that keep us inside as men, and have other men around you that you're able to begin to build trust, share conversation, tell your journey. As I told my journey on the show, yeah, all the viewers got to see that, but I've been telling my story since I've joined Freemasonry to other Masons, and just getting my voice out, getting my energy out is a part of the healing process. And it's just something that we all need to do. And just starting this podcast gives us that opportunity, and that to me is exciting.
I am literally just, you take the words right out of my mouth with this. How has the podcast community been receptive, both the Masons and non-Masons who's reached out to us, to this show so far?
Yeah, I mean, they've went above and beyond. If you look at Kim, you know a little bit more information than I do about her. Could you explain to our viewers about Kim?
Absolutely. So Kimberly Newlove is a podcaster who hosts the Pharmacist's Voice. She's also a voiceover actor, and she also does medical book audio for them. She's a friend of mine from Toastmasters. That's a public speaking group that me and her meet every Friday at 7 in the morning. Picture this, if you will. 7 in the morning, we are doing speech games and preparing prepared speeches with other people who like to public speak, and it only enhances us to be able to talk. I'm a salesman in my real profession now, and to be able to talk and try to eliminate all the ahs, ums, buts, so's, to have that confidence when I'm talking to people on this podcast. I mean, I'm already seeing the benefits. Kim's been a great friend. And tell us a little bit about what she did for us when I showed her this, being a non-Mason.
Yeah, so she sent out an email first, and I had no idea what to expect. I heard of a podcaster who took the time out to review it, and it kind of perked my interest. I was like, oh, really? Okay, a professional podcaster. And as I went through the email and I'm reading it, and I'm beginning to understand all these helpful tips that she was giving, it seemed like she really went above and beyond. Let alone she listened to the whole first episode, and she took all of her notes and then recorded a audio recording for us of all the ideas that she thought of, the things that she felt about the show, things that we can improve on. And she just came across as an utter professional. I mean, I'm blown away by her, and I instantly reached out. I sent her an email thanking her for all the valuable insight that she provided. And as a friend of Toastmasters of yours, thank you for reaching out to her and letting her hear that, because just the insight and the value that she gives, you really wouldn't get it anywhere else. So it takes special people like her that improve this show. And I've got to give a big shout out and thank you to Kim. Thank you.
We love you, Kim, and we do appreciate you being able to take the time out of the day to look at this. Let's go back to our podcast. We released it 5 days ago, and we have over about 222 views since that podcast release. I know we haven't even been marketing it out in the social media platforms yet,
Right.
but somehow the word's spreading, and we had 200 people look at our podcast. We had 200 people who heard our story, and we want to bring you value. We want to bring you great content that you can look back and reflect and get excited about this thing called Freemasonry. You see, we're not here selling the fraternity. That's not our goal. We're just be able to provide insight to what it has to offer and to be there for people who are looking for that sense of belonging in society in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing, my fellow craft friend and brother,
Yeah.
is that these men that you're going to meet in this fraternity from all walks of life, they're not strangers. They're just friends you haven't met yet. I've done things locally. I've done things on a state level. I've done things nationally. And I've met brethren from all around the world and the stories you meet. And you don't know these men, but when they know you're an actual Freemason, they know you. They have your back. And it's that harmony. It's like music to the ears when somebody sees another brother and recognized by a decal or the ring that I'm wearing. It's something I can't even really convey truly in words right now. So, Mike, I'm actually going to put you on the spot. What else are we looking forward to doing on this podcast?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think me and you coming into this, we both agreed that we want to tell our stories, that we wanted to bring guests on here to tell their stories, because a lot of times you hear about the fraternity and you see these men who have been in here a lifetime. You never really get to hear their stories. And with all the experience they had over the years, I can't imagine that it's not a good story to tell or to be told, or that is interesting to some of the viewers out there. But at the end of the day, it's to show who we are as a people. We're not bad people. We're people who feel that there are some men out there who have been in some bad situations or have gone through some things. We just want to give them the light. We want to show them that at the end of the day, there are people out there that do care, that want to mentor you, that there is a knowledge out there for you to learn in Freemasonry. And at the end of the day, we really just want to be able to offer help to these people. So coming into this, that's my main goal. I believe that that's your goal as well. Yeah, I mean, we want to help bring the light to the people out there.
Also, Another benefit that we are looking to do is basically dispel some of the myths in Masonry as well. These negative connotations. We talked about that a little bit on the first podcast. We're going to go into that more. And that was another great idea from Kim. Doing these myth busting episodes
Absolutely.
or segments on the show and just show you, hey, not all things that are unknown is bad. The joke is that Freemasonry is not a secret society, but it's a society with secrets. We talked about the catechism and exam after somebody goes through their degree work. It's a dialogue where one Mason can know another Mason. It's to prompt you and educate you into the fraternity so that you're talking to a duly and truly brother of our craft. Masonry, we've already talked about in the last episode that's been around for 300 years, and we are going to bring in some people on our podcast who are going to explain the history of it, of where it comes from, and how it's still flourishing today. And we're looking forward to that. Another big shout out to John Majorowski, podcaster at UFOs on the Level. John's another Ohio Freemason. He's been interviewed in other podcast shows as well as in magazines, and he has an interest in the UFOs and the unknown. But it's awesome, I'm telling you.
I mean, the UFO thing is such a big topic this day and age, and at some point, whether it be the Mythbusters episode or bringing in some UFO alien talk or some of the sacred knowledge, not breaking the rules of Freemasonry, but just being able to share some of that knowledge out there, I think is going to be very beneficial to the viewers.
So walking through the same steps as another brother in the fraternity, having that sacred bond of brotherhood and knowing each other, that's what this podcast is about. We're going to bring in some great authors and some just great Masons from all walks of life. Every story is going to be interesting. More importantly, we also want to hear from you. So if you have ideas or questions or how we can even make the show better, we're very open to feedback. And you can do that by sending us an email at allsquarepodcast@gmail.com. We're also going to hit all the other platforms as well as the podcast platforms to make this an audible show as well. Correct, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Kim gave us some very good tips on how to do that, and it's something that we definitely plan on following through with. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, anything else you want to add after this?
Rob, that's a great question. I think, honestly, we get so comfortable talking. There's so much that we could go on and on about. Some of the things that we may have missed out in the previous episode that may have not been clear is, what is degree work? What is catechism? Is that how you...
Catechism?
Catechism. I think these are some bigger words that some of the non-Masons may not understand what that means. Could you dive down into a little bit of that, kind of clearing it up from our previous episode?
Sure. So I just said moments ago that the catechism is an examination. The degree work, like I said, there's 3 degrees in Freemasonry once you're accepted. There's that entered apprentice, there's fellowcraft, and there's master mason. In each degree, it's much like going through a historical theatrical degree, and you go through this and you are walking through the same steps as other Masons, and you're learning about the philosophies and the teachings and the principles of what makes Freemasonry. Now, I can't disclose what it's like to go through those. That's for the people who need to knock on the door of Freemasonry, because why would you want to know that and be spoiled by it? But that catechism, that examination book, is when the time you work with when the master craftsman, aka me, the mentor, works with my candidate, and we kind of refresh about what you went over and why you went over it. I need to make sure Mike is proficient as he's going through these degrees, because he's going to meet guys who are going to test him. who are going to be like, are you really a Mason? Or are you just some guy who found a necklace on Etsy and you're wearing it and you think that you're all big and bad and it's the Illuminati? No, men will want to know if you're a duly and truly prepared man of this fraternity, a man of the cloth, no pun intended, with our aprons. And we're going to expand upon that more as we dive into future episodes. Can't spoil everything at once, but that's what the catechism's for, to be able to know who is a real Mason, or if they're just blowing smoke.
So, no, I think that's a great response. But it also brings me to my next question. So, when you talk about having to knock on the door, what does that mean?
So, Masonry doesn't solicitate membership. It does not. Okay? To be one, you have to ask one. That's when you see the number 2, the letter B, the number 1, then ASK, number 1. Masonry, over the years, have not done the best job of basically talking about how to become a Mason. You have to join on your own free will and accord. You have to talk to another brother of the fraternity and say, hey, I'm interested. Then you might go get coffee with that guy and learn, and he's want to know, why are you doing it? Now, over my 10 years, there's been guys who's tried to join the fraternity because they wanted to be part of the in crowd, that they thought it was going to elevate them to their next riches and money and, help with their music career.
Yeah.
That's not what the fraternity is about. Instant gratification in the fraternity is not there. You have to work towards it. You have to go through that whole degree and put time into it. Reflect and work on yourselves. In Masonry, with the lessons and teachings, we give you the working tools, but it's up to you to apply them.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, if there is a viewer out there who is interested on knocking on that door, what is something that they can do to reach out? Do they go to a website? Are they looking up a certain person? What is something that they would follow through to be able to get a hold of someone like that?
That's a great question, Mike. The best thing I would suggest is you need to go on to the website of whatever state or jurisdiction you're in and find the Grand Lodge, like example, Grand Lodge of Ohio, which will provide a lot of information of what the fraternity is and how to reach out to someone to find a local lodge in your area. And I'm glad that we're talking about this. So we never talked about our location. We're in Toledo, Ohio, the Glass City. Okay? In our district, we are in what we call the 11th district. The whole state of Ohio is broken up through, I think, 25 districts. Don't hold me to that, and I'll correct that if it's wrong, but I believe it's 25 districts. Northwest Ohio is in the 11th district, surrounded by certain counties. We have 20 lodges in our district alone.
Wow.
And with lodges, each lodge is different. They're not all the same. So you might have a more active lodge, a more older lodge. I always like to talk about this to what makes a lodge. Well, Roberto Sanchez, a good friend of mine, a Masonic author, had these quadrants in his book, The True Masonic Experience. It's a great book. Any new Mason should be looking into it. It kind of gives a highlight of what the fraternity is about. Roberto is from Houston, Texas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And to simplify in his book, The Quadrants, there are 4 quadrants that make up a successful lodge. I'll always like to say this. It's ritual, the degree work, education, fellowship, and charity. You see, because ritual sets the tone. It gets you excited. You're going through these steps. If nobody knew their ritual or the degree that they were portraying, and they're reading it out of books and they're lacklusterly saying it, you're not going to be excited. You're going to be like, what's going on? These guys aren't even prepared.
Yeah, right.
But with a lodge that is focusing on ritual, getting that new man, that neophyte, that student into the fraternity, getting him excited, knowing your words, conveying the message of how to be a better man. That ritual's, to my opinion, and this is my own opinion, not on the reflection of the Grand Lodge or any other lodges, just R.L. Franks here. That ritual sets the tone. Followed by education, working with your mentor, being master craftsman, as we call them in the fraternity. Be able to provide you education, because what are we seeking? More knowledge, more understanding, and there's a lifelong of this education that's been taken in this archive of this fraternity. You can spend your whole life learning how to be a better man, how to apply the philosophies into your life, and we're going to get into that, of how that is in other podcasts. But education's the second one. Fellowship, that third quadrant right there, that fellowship and enjoying being with your brethren, getting excitement, that's that cement that bonds us.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
You've met men from around other lodges who's just got to know you, and they welcome you with open arms, and you're building the fellowship, and you're having the bourbon and brisket event. Shout out to Chase Conine and Adam Latham for that this weekend. Again, just having fun time, because who wants to go to a business meeting?
Right.
Who wants to do that?
Yeah.
In the fraternity, fellowship is so important. Followed by charity. Not just writing a check to a nonprofit or a community fundraiser. Not just about, which is great things, supporting, Special Olympics, or I'm just using that as an example. Other stuff that can help better people. That charity of being here for one another, showing that brotherly love. I like to use the Greek word agape. That is another core piece. And some lodges, if you look at the quadrant, they focus on maybe education over fellowship, or the ritual over charity a little. They're all charitable, but some do a little bit more than others. And there's other great lodges in this across the state that are doing great things in their community, as well as for some endeavors that people have helped them with. Like, perfect example. Yeah. We had a member who knew another brother from another lodge. He was a World War II vet, and he was 90. He had to be 95. He's no longer with us. Bob Wright from Damascus Collingwood Lodge, great man. He was a part of this He was part of this senior center, this senior community, and his daughter dies in California. He's 95. How's he going to say goodbye to his daughter?
Yeah.
Our lodge, Rubicon, this is before you joined, heard that. We raised money. We passed a hat, and we raised money for him. We wasn't even his home lodge. His home lodge heard. They raised just as much money. And lodges working together. That's that love. That's that agape, love for the sake of loving.
Absolutely.
That's what the fraternity is about, and we want to convey that in many stories like that. He got to say goodbye to his daughter, and now he's no longer with us. Hopefully they are definitely together.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about here. It's being here. I mean, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. I've seen so much in 10 years. Mike Lou's going to see so much in 10 more years to come. But that's what our journey is in this podcast. We want to show you the beauty of the fellowship. Mike?
Yeah, no, Rob, I think you're spot on. And I really appreciate you taking the time out to answer those questions. I think that there are a lot of viewers out there that may not know, like we discussed, the degree where catechism. Am I saying that right?
You got it right.
But no, I mean, I think it's great for you guys to be able to hear that and hear some of what it is about. There's a lot of questions out there for a lot of guys who are interested in this, and I think we're landing those answers here today. So thank you.
Hey, it's my pleasure. This is what I get the enjoyment out of. You heard about the last episode when I was working with candidates, and I'm still working with candidates. Mike, I want to ask you.
Yeah.
You're a young man. You have kids.
Mm-hmm.
I think you told me off the record, off this episode, that you actually showed this to your son. How old's your son?
My son's 18. Yep.
Okay, your son's 18. What did he think about it? I mean, from what you were seeing.
Well, in the era of kids being on YouTube and just being on, or social media in general, it kind of made me feel like a superhero. He definitely enjoyed the episode, seeing me on there, and it gave me some nice tips as well. He thought the lighting behind us will be interesting. We went ahead and we listened to him. We added that for some of the younger generation out there. But overall, I think he was very interested in it. And at the end of the day, I hope he's able to follow through some of these episodes. And when he reaches his age, that he would come and join the Masonry as well. So, little goal of mine. Nothing's forced about it, but yeah, I mean, it's a good thing for him. And to actually speak on the kid route, Freemasonry also has kids fraternities as well. Is that correct?
Yes, they have youth organizations. The youth organization, there's several of them. For young men, it's called D Malay.
Oh, okay.
The International Order of D Malay. We can definitely talk about that more, but it's kind of like a Masonic Boy Scouts. That might not be the best terminology, but again, it brings young men who are sons of Masons, or even just kids who don't have a Masonic lineage and their friends bring them in, and they learn how to be young men.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I think that's good to point out too. When our goal is to help men out there, we're not just reaching for a certain type or a certain individual. At the end of the day, we want to help all men out there. Now, Freemasonry being excluding women from some aspects of it, there are organizations out there that are part of Freemasonry as well. Can you dive down into that a little bit?
Of course. I'll start with the female youth organization, the International Order of Rainbow Girls. That's another young girl youth organization. I don't have much experience with it because I do not have a young daughter.
Yeah.
But it helps young ladies become women.
Yeah.
And getting that mentorship on the maternal side with their mother advisors, they call them.
Oh, okay.
And it's another thing. And then there's Job's Daughters, which is another young lady youth organization as well. All these, Job's Daughters, Rainbow Girls, International Order of D Malay, check them out on their respective websites. They'll be able to convey that way more than I can. But a kid does not have to have a Masonic lineage to be a part of that.
Yeah.
They, like I said, they just meet another D Malay boy, or you can inquire on those respective sites and learn more of how to be a part of that and what the benefits are that they offer. But it's basically learning how to be young men and women and respecting your mother, your father, and elders, and just adults of this world, and it's giving them those tools as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, when it comes to women our age, there is an organization. So I want to kind of dive down this and take a segue. So Masonry is like a tree, okay? The roots, the foundation is your Blue Lodge. Blue Lodge. So that looks like 3 degrees. Once you join, go through the Entered Apprentice, Fellow Craft, and Master Mason. That alone, once you're a Master Mason, like I said, it's the highest in Masonry. You get open to all these other different branches and what we call appendant bodies in the fraternity. So for women our age and older, there's an organization called the Order of Eastern Stars, and that is a co-ed Masonry that wives, sisters can be a part of, and they have their own lineage and a charity associated. For more fun and fraternal, you have the Shriners, the guys with the funny red hats that drive the cars. That's another appendant body in Freemasonry. All Shriners are Masons, but not all Masons are Shriners. Just keep that in the back of your mind. You have to be a Freemason you have to be a Master Mason in particular to be able to go into that. And that's social, that's fun, and the benefits of that is just having a good time.
Yeah.
The charity that is associated, Mike, with the Shriners is the Shriner Children's Hospital. We have 22 hospitals throughout the country, and they specialize in spina bifida, cleft palates, and burn victims. Kids who don't have insurance can be taken care of with these hospitals. I have seen the benefits of what these hospitals can do, and not a cent comes out of the parents' pockets. The Scottish Rite Freemasonry helps with dyslexia, is one of their big causes, and also research into schizophrenia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The York Rite Masonry, so we call that the York Rite branch. There's 3 different bodies in that. That is chapter, council, and commandery. Each one of those bodies have a specific charity that they campaign, and that's more into the Christian sect of Masonry. Again, Masonry is universal, but there's also different branches for some other people who like to belong and be a part of those works. And I could go on and on and on. Just when you think there's a branch that's just when you think you've learned all the branches, there's another one to explore.
Yeah.
And again, we're going to go through those down the line on this podcast and just highlight the benefits of this. But again, you have to be a Master Mason to be able to go into those bodies. And there's some invite-only bodies too that have their own special style and theme to it. Masonry is a lifelong journey. If you want to experience it all in a year, I hate to break it to you, that's not how Masonry works. You get to enjoy the journey and meet all these amazing people along the way.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can start the journey by knocking on that door.
So mote it be, my brother.
So mote it be.
So mote it be. Listen, with this podcast, you have any questions, comments, you need somebody to talk to, hit us up at our email, allsquarepodcast@gmail.com. This has been a great second episode.
Absolutely.
I'm getting chills just thinking about the excitement that's coming as we bring in some more guests in our later episodes. But, Mike, do you have anything to say before we wrap it up?
No, I agree with you. I think this has been a great second start here, and I think we covered over a lot this episode. So hopefully you fellows out there have learned a couple things, or maybe you've your curiosity's perked up and you have some questions. Feel free to reach out to us.
Reach out to us, and also if you're interested in learning more about how to become a Mason or that, we would be able to direct you to the websites to where you can engage and gather more information to make that decision yourself. That's Michael Liu. I'm R.L. Franks, and you are all square. See you in the next episode. Hey, R.L. Franks here. Thanks again for watching today's episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, if you believe someone can benefit from the message that we provided on today's podcast, send it over to them. You may inspire them. Have any questions about the podcast? Don't forget to send us an email at allsquarepodcast@gmail.com. And for those of you out there who don't have no one to talk to and feel like you're alone, we've provided the suicide hotline number. Just remember, you are worth it, and we are here supporting you and rooting for you every step of the way. See you here at the next episode.